Yet on when the Supreme Court will decide on President Trump's travel ban. The current session ending tomorrow, and questions still remain on what will happen to the president's signature executive order. Meanwhile, there's also speculation that 80-year-old Justice Anthony Kennedy could retire. This morning, Kellyanne Conway refused to say whether Justice Kennedy had said anything to the White House about his retirement, but she did say this.
I can tell you one thing, just as the president did with Justice Neil Gorsuch, whenever there are vacancies, whenever that happens, he will look for somebody who has fidelity to the Constitution, who doesn't make up the law as they go along, and somebody who has the judicial temperament and a record that's beyond reproach, as did Justice Gorsuch.
Joining me now is the former president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, David Leopold. David, okay, so let's try that first. You know, we're looking at the number of years that Justice Kennedy has been on the Supreme Court, right? And he's at 29. He's above, if you will, the medium by 4, 5, 6 years. Does that mean that most likely he would be the first to retire?
No, I don't think so. His health is good, you know, and Richard, he's at the pinnacle of his power. He is the court in a lot of ways. I mean, he is the pivotal vote on that court. He's a swing vote. He wrote some extremely important decisions. Obergefell is one. He wrote that he's upheld the core meaning of Roe versus Wade over the years, and he's gone the other way on some other cases. Citizen United comes to mind first. So he's at the pinnacle of his power. My understanding is he's in good health. But I'll tell you what the real concern I do have here, and that is this. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about the travel ban, I know, but we see that the courts in this country right now under this Trump administration are the first line and the last line of defense of the Constitution. Congress is not really doing its job in counteracting some of the things that are happening, but the courts have been, the appellate courts have been. We need a good, strong Supreme Court. David, I would like to see...
And that's a good question. From what you know about the Supreme Court, that energy that we're seeing, as you mentioned, the appellate court, in courts all across the country, the lower courts, has certainly been palpable, right? And that's been measurable. You can see it in their decisions. Is that same energy focusing up to the Supreme Court right now?
Well, we don't know. We have a new member of the Supreme Court, you know, and I respect Justice Gorsuch, but, you know, I'm still smarting over the fact that that seat was stolen by the Republicans. That was it'll always stand as a stain on the Constitution when they would not allow Barack Obama to have a Supreme Court appointment last year. But it remains to be seen. Some of these cases may get up to the Supreme Court on some of Donald Trump's draconian immigration enforcement initiatives, whether it be the travel ban, whether it be sanctuary cities, whether it be SB 4, that awful bill in Texas that criminalizes people who would not turn in immigrants. So the court may have a lot of action, will have a lot of action over the next several years. We need to make sure, we need to hope that we have justices that do apply the law.
David, then, on travel ban then, what do you expect to happen this week? Do you expect the justices to come out with a ruling on that?
Well, I think the right thing to do, Richard, is for the justices to decline not to hear these two cases. You've got a case out of the Fourth Circuit in which the appellate court threw the travel ban out on constitutional grounds. You've got a case out of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals where they threw it out on statutory grounds. We don't have a disagreement among these appellate courts. And more importantly, or just as importantly, if this travel ban case goes to the Supreme Court, by the time the court hears the case, which would be beginning in October when the lawyers brief the case, there'll be nothing to brief, because the whole rationale, the Trump administration's rationale, the whole reason for this travel ban against 6 predominantly Muslim countries is that they want to have a 90-day brief pause, so they say, so that they can review the vetting processes of these 6 countries. Now, 90 days, let's remember that the Ninth Circuit, in its ruling earlier this month, said, okay, we're gonna keep the hold on the travel ban in place, the injunction, but we're gonna let the Trump administration go forward with its review of vetting. So by the time we get to the fall, that 90-day review will be over. There is no legal or factual basis for the Supreme Court to make a decision. Right, exactly.
Yeah. David Leopold, great conversation. Thank you, sir.
Anytime.
All righty.
Thank you.
You bet. Next 35 years after